Alicia Love is here to empower the feminine in all of us. All of us. She is trained as a soul coach, intuitive shamanic astrologer, and meditation guide. Alicia leads local circles in meditation and women's circles, and she also offers a spirit circle online, one-on-one astrology readings and guided meditation journeys. And today she's here to talk about the heroine's journey. Welcome, Alicia.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I am so excited to be here and to talk to everyone about this amazing aspect of the feminine that resides in all of us, men and women. We are all a part of the whole and we have both sides. So I'm definitely here to help people integrate and align with that. And the heroine's journey is such a new concept because we know about the hero's journey. The hero's journey is, the very masculine society we live in, the way to go out and conquer and battle the dragon and go through all of the tests and come back and bring to the village what we've learned. And a lot of women have been operating under that as our main way of working in the world.
Gotcha.
But the heroine's journey is an internal discovery journey. And men and women alike, all people need this aspect of discovery within. And I love astrology so much. And in shamanic astrology, we talk about more ancient goddess and god archetypal patterns.
Yeah.
And for Venus, she is the closest planet to us and the star in the morning sky before the sun rises or the evening sky just after the sun sets. And that's because she travels with us and around the sun in a way that the ancient Sumerians called her the goddess Inanna. And they said that she goes through these gates to the underworld and back out again. And that's a really great example of the heroine's journey.
Okay. So I'm hearing a reference to Venus. So how does Venus really interact or affect us along this journey? What is the reference point for that?
Venus is the feminine aspect of ourselves. Just like Mars is the masculine, Venus is the feminine, and we can relate to the energies of where Venus is in the sky, depending on the season and the astrology, and reflect that on the inside to how we are in our most nourishing and creative and feminine aspects. So that's the way that we love and the way that we embody receiving and surrender and our creative side. It's our wild and raw creation side as well.
Okay. So could you tell us a little bit more about Inanna and what that archetype represents and how that's important to us?
Yeah, it's so important these days. And when I first started following this pathway, this story, and really using it to alchemize what's going on in the world and how I'm relating to it, Inanna is the aspect of the feminine that we've really lost our connection to. She is the queen of heaven and earth. And in the ancient Sumerian times, it's actually the very first goddess story that we have written down. So as far back as any ancient texts, this is the first that we found of anyone writing about the goddess. And there are multiple stories about her, but the main one that we follow is this descent to the underworld. And the reason why it's so important is it's this aspect of renewal and release, because just like the seasons, we need to grow into ourselves and at the fall time, shed what no longer serves us. And when Inanna goes through the set, that Venus conjuncting the moon, so aligning with the moon in a lunar cycle as well. So a lot of women follow the moon, and to feel this Venus dance is also really powerful. At each gate, Inanna removes an article of clothing so that she can arrive to the underworld in her completely naked, raw self, just like we all enter the doorways of death with, we can't bring anything with us, right? So
Sure.
when we go within, there's a stripping away of what is no longer serving us, what is not what we can use in our spiritual work or in our most joyful creative selves. And that starts out with the crown chakra, and she takes off her crown, and third eye, she takes off her earrings. At the throat, she takes off her necklace. And for the heart, she's a warrior goddess, so she takes off her breastplate, and so on down until she's completely stripped naked. And when she enters the underworld, she has to die, because there's always phases in our life where we have to release and close the door and just let things go. And to see it as a cycle of an active reclaiming of ourselves through the surrender. And then when she comes back out of the underworld, I'm kind of shortening this version of the story, but the reclaiming on the way out is taking those things back and bringing them in a new integrated way with the understanding of this element of complete surrender. And the when we go through the reclaiming, we're really putting back on the parts of us that we are choosing consciously and wanting
Okay.
to work with.
So we're consciously rebuilding after that stripping away. Now, I'm not sure if anyone else is wondering this. And I know I've gone through many death and rebirth cycles, but do we always have to lay it bare metaphorically and get to that complete bare point in order to rebuild, I guess?
In some way, I would say yes, because there's like a raw truth to understanding ourselves at the core. And that's really what this is all representing. It's all a metaphor for getting to the core of who we are and understanding that you are amazing for who you are as you are, and that you don't need all of these other things. It could be clothing and housing in a certain way, or it could be a certain career or degree, or all of these accolades that we think are who we are.
Yeah.
But it's really about knowing who we are at the essence and needing to get to the core of that.
So it's just like a descent, like you said originally, kind of into our own consciousness, that internal, like what really am I? Who really am I underneath all of this stuff and these thoughts and that conventional path? And
Exactly. So as we go through, if we're taking off the crown, it's like, who am I without this title of superiority, right? Who am I exactly, like you said? What's really the essence of me that I can say is true? I am kind. I do my best, and we can say that that's not what is going to get us that crown as a symbol. But when we reclaim it as, I am a divine queen within myself because I believe in myself as X, Y, and Z, true and honest, and pick any of the values that you hold true and reclaim those and work with that.
gotcha. Do you mind? I really loved that symbolism of the crown. Do you mind taking us through, like, what do the earrings and such represent?
Yes, absolutely. And as we are at the beginning of a cycle, we're actually in this descent through the end of the year here. So the crown chakra is, and we're really working with the chakra energies too. So the crown is our connection to our divinity. That is how we know that we are the truth of who we are, and how we can work with and surrender to divine timing, divine flow, and all of that, understanding that we are always exactly where we're supposed to be and not thinking outside of us as um, that's where we're supposed to be. And the earrings focus us towards the third eye, which is being able to see your potential and your future, and you're connecting to your intuition and all the elements of this clear sight. And then
Mm,
the throat chakra, it's speaking your truth, using what you know to be true and value and have learned, and using your voice as a sounding resonance towards helping and contributing, or having a boundary, or speaking what needs to be said because it's important to you. And
right.
then the rest, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I
What
was
was
just going to say, if the crown represents the titles that we're releasing, and
it?
then what are we releasing from here and the other places too?
It's a lot of what people think from the outside is important. So for me, for the site, it's thinking that other people are judging me, or I need
Mm,
to wear the right clothes to fit in, or
perceptions.
perceptions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are those
Okay.
that are limiting you from really being your unique and wonderful self?
Gotcha.
You might be
And then
thinking.
like the necklace, what are we releasing from that?
A lot of us don't speak our truth and
Mm,
have a strong voice to speak up for what we believe in.
mhm,
Some of us have had issues with violence or trauma and use our
mm.
voice in a way that is not healthy. I love Don Miguel Ruiz when he speaks of the four agreements, and always speaking with kindness, or without gossip. And so it might be something
I've got
that.
the 4 agreements on my bracelets.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Truly, it is really,
Mhm.
I think, our voice, and how important it is to
Yeah.
honor what we have inside and really share it with the world.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we've got, the perception, the voice, and then like the chest plate. Like I'm assuming that would be our emotional armoring to some degree.
Very much. Exactly. Yes, it's whatever we've guarded ourselves with. It's
Mm,
our patterns that we limit ourselves from connection through that heart center. It's the way we don't love ourselves. A lot of
mm,
it is self love and seeing ourselves in this beautiful way, and not taking to heart the way other people might see us, and
mm.
letting that be the way that we feel about ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean that right there can be pretty powerful, right? Yeah.
absolutely. I think it's the overarching theme, actually, of this Venus transit, because she just started a new cycle in the sign of Leo, which is a heart centered leader. It is the creative side of us. And for
Mm,
everyone, it is stepping into this royalty of deserving and of believing in oneself. And self love is the overarching theme for sure.
gotcha. So, all this talk about Venus and Inanna and like the feminine, and you said that, we all have feminine aspects, whether we're male, female, non-binary, two-spirit, it doesn't matter. Um, so like when it comes to the feminine and this whole like Venus in the Leo, like feminine leadership, tell me what that means to you. What does that look like?
Yeah, feminine leadership is taking a different way for, like you said, men, women, non binary, two spirit, everyone. Taking a different way than this model that we've been shown for thousands of years, that there's this drive and leadership in a more masculine way. Feminine leadership to me is listening to the whole community, bringing in
Mhm.
everyone's gifts, and letting everyone rise up and have a voice. To
Mhm.
be a feminine leader means that you're inclusive and caring and a good listener, as well as speaking the truth and from the heart, and wanting it to be nourishing for all people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's great. I mean, think like you said, it's very much needed, and I think that that's the direction that many people are feeling like, oh yeah, we definitely do need this. So, I'm assuming you resonate with being a feminine leader. So tell me, like, you and your experience, like your path with feminine leadership.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I felt like I was a leader from a young age. I am very
Mhm.
creative and I'll take the lead if somebody's like, "Hey, maybe we should do this." I'm like, "Yeah, let's get together. Let's all make it happen." And
Mhm.
for someone that doesn't feel like a leader in business or in a specific, the way we think of government as our leaders, it's really about, for me, how I've become a person that will initiate and gather people together to create an experience.
Mhm.
And a couple of years ago, coming out of the pandemic, I have been leading moon circles around every new and full moon online. And I really wanted to get back to creating community. And I decided that I would step into leadership around creating community because so many people were feeling lost and disconnected. And I really felt a calling to create sisterhood, to help heal the feminine wound of competition and the
Yeah.
catty, difficult things that women we've grown up with as part of our society. It's part of how the masculine leaders have also isolated us and separated us because we're more powerful together. So I was a manager for many years. I lived and worked in society all very normally and, well, not very normally. I'm on the edge, spiritual,
Seemingly normally.
I can call normal. And, um, yeah, what's normal to me is so different
Yeah.
from Alicia. And that word, its own word is like normal. There's nothing normal these days. It's all so
Mhm.
unique and special. And
Mhm.
seeing each individual person as unique and special is one of my gifts. And so I'm able to draw people together and be a leader for creating community. And I've hosted many women's circles just even in the last 6 months to gather the women together. And now it's just becoming a movement. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, in this, feminine leadership and in your own path, like, you were talking about all the different ways that that can show up, and it hasn't yet shown up in politics, and isn't that interesting? And when's that going to happen, by the way? Because anytime now, um, right?
Yes.
I keep saying what we need is a single mom as president, because they get it done.
True. I'm in that boat. Mhm.
Yeah. Um, but you spoke to something just now that I really want to dive into for a second, and that is this the wounds between women are so acute, and then you throw on top of that like the wounds between like women of color and white women are so acute. Like, so where do we begin with all of that?
I think it's about lifting each other up and seeing each other as beautiful. And instead of competing for who can be on top, who can be prettier, who can have a better job, who makes more money, to become a culture of celebration. And
Yeah.
if we can
Love that.
celebrate each other and lift each
Yeah.
other up, that is, in my mind, the number one thing that we can do. Because if you love yourself, you just want other people to love themselves too. And if some woman comes into my life and she's down on herself, she has a low self esteem or something, I'm just going to try to boost her up and continue to shine on what I see in her and reflect that beauty, because when whatever she sees in me that she might be admiring or jealous of is actually something that I think she has in her, and we're all mirrors for each other.
I do agree to that. You know, um, but not everyone is conscious, in the moment of their thoughts, words, actions. And so you get someone doing an oopsie, and next thing you know, there's a fracture in the community, right? So, I think so often, like you said, we tend to not address it. We tend to like bind our expression up and just like walk away, and just be like, I don't want to have anything to do with that person. And, there's been a lot of talk about call out culture or whatever. I think that there's something to be said for call in culture, you
Mhm.
know? Um, like, hey, what's up? What do you need right now? What can we do about this? I noticed such and such. Am I wrong? Please
Right.
clarify. Yeah. So I just want to know, like, have you had to do any kind of initiating with that and healing around that? So
Oh,
do you
yeah.
mind sharing with us a little bit?
Absolutely. I have had a number of women misinterpret my actions, or I've misspoke, or recently in the last 6 months, a woman that we had just drifted apart. We tried to be in community and be in a circle together and be friends. And it just sort of fell off. And I had gone through a breakup and a big move, and I have a teenage son as a single mom. I was really pretty self-absorbed in my process, I think, as
Yeah, well,
well.
that's a lot. I mean, yeah.
And it was, and I know
Yeah.
she knew that it was a lot, but she wanted to clear the air and create some sort of connection for us. And I really appreciated that. So we had a heart-to-heart conversation, and
Mhm,
she told me her experience of me, that
mhm.
when she was listening and supporting me, that I didn't ask enough questions about her, that I wasn't as curious in return to be equally supportive. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was going through a hard time. I was doing something more than a normal connection would require. And
Yeah.
she actually gave me a lot of grace and understanding of that. And she owned her side of saying, and I didn't speak up for it in the moment. I didn't say, hey, I need to talk about something too. And can you be
Yeah.
the listener? And I would have been happy to respond in a positive way in that situation. But in that moment, I was able to reflect back to her that I understand how she felt that way. I completely see that. And the fact that she owned it. And I think that's a big part of the sisterhood and coming in to these feminine wounds, is to recognize where we're coming from and what
Mhm.
we can own. When you can own 100% of it and the other
Mm.
person can own 100% of it, that's two whole people coming together, creating beautiful interconnection.
Right. And so much of it is just being present and intentional
Yeah.
with and mindful about where we're at, what's our intention for this conversation. Are we really looking to solve this, or are we looking to be right? And also being intentional with word choice, and asking those open-ended questions, like the nuances of communication and learning to fine tune those communication skills really go a long way in developing peaceful bridges.
Yes, and I have studied a lot of nonviolent communication and conscious relating enough to breathe through and recognize, I was a little nervous in that conversation.
Yeah.
I was
It
being
never
kind
feels
of
good, especially
right?
like
I was
leading up to it. You're like, oh my God, I gotta have this and then your mind is like, and then all this stuff's gonna happen and they're gonna hate me forever and whatever the story is, but once you actually do it and you guys actually build something and work through it, it's like this deep, slow exhale of like, the whole body lets go. And thank goodness, this flood of relief.
Yes, it really helps to breathe through and slow
Mhm.
down any of
Mhm.
these conversations, and speaking from the heart and being aware of not using judgmental language, even towards yourself, right? Oh, I hate that I
Yeah.
just did that. A lot
Yeah.
of us are hard on ourselves more than we are on each other.
Yeah.
Taking those moments to say, my heart's really tender right now. I feel nervous in this conversation because I'm afraid you're not going to like me, or
Yeah.
being honest and
Speak
saying,
it. Speak it. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So when we're talking about this throat chakra, that's like, those are the things that if we learn that kind of communication, if we learn to speak those kinds of truths, then we can be vulnerable, which is an absolute gift and power of the feminine. And we're working with it. We're just,
I think far too few people far too, and this is not a judgment, but it's just a thought. I believe far too many people um, don't aren't able to like really like we're taught to withhold how we feel, instead of saying, hey, you know what? Like you said, I'm feeling really sensitive right now, or hey, you know what? I'm afraid that I'm going to lose our relationship, or hey, you know what? I just feel kind of crappy today and can use some validation. Please tell me I'm not a total failure and screw up, right?
Yes.
Like being able to finally be able to speak these words myself in my interpersonal relationships has been so just like, oh, I don't have to do it alone. I can just be like, today. And that's okay because I can get that support for myself if I'm honest about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just so powerful to be able to have those kinds of connections and learning to grow together. And
Mhm.
especially women, when we get together in circle, we can mirror each other, we can feel heard, and we can share in an experience of growth. Then we're creating more and more of that trust between
Mhm.
the feminine. And I think that that's the big thing I hear from a lot of women, and especially teenage girls. My son has got friends and I talk to
Mhm.
them, and I want to help the teenagers so much because they're so hard on each other
They're
and
terrible to each other.
vicious
It's
out there.
terrible.
So as we grow into our adulthood and as we
Yeah.
learn to communicate like this,
Mhm.
it's really creating trust and support for each other that is what I think is going to heal a lot of this sisterhood.
It never ceases to amaze me, or not amaze me. It never ceases to surprise me when I run across Mean Girl. I'm like, ugh, where did that? I forgot that existed for a second because this is not within the realm of my possibilities. And then when I run across it, I'm like, oh, what is that? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
Mean Girl.
And then it takes repair. It takes a lot of
Yeah,
courage to step up and say, "Hey, that comment really hurt me. Like
yeah,
that's not the way I want to relate to this experience. I would like it to feel supportive, and like what can we do to get past this?" Actually, a friend of mine called in tears. She said a friend of hers had made this comment saying something about how she was so mean to do it that way, and that was a real mean girl thing to do. And she was shocked because she was really just trying to be inclusive, actually, and something
oh,
went wrong, right? And so it can just be a
yeah,
misunderstanding, but
yeah.
being um, labeled like that, she felt that need to guard and protect, and
Oh,
then there needs to be repair, and it
yeah.
really takes a courageous heart and vulnerability to come to the other side of those sorts of difficulties.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So back to Inanna and the story and the cycle that we're in, that we just started, and then the heroine's journey. So, how can we help facilitate our own process of taking off and shedding the things and going through that whole thing?
Yeah, it's a cycle that can happen pretty quickly if we're really conscious of it. The
Mhm,
actual Venus cycle is 19 months, and it goes through each gate monthly, and the underworld is about 40 days, and then again each gate monthly in the return. Um, and I personally have gone through journaling as my main resource to ask questions regarding those different areas of how I relate to any situation. So you can journal through as if you're going through your chakra levels and
okay.
speaking, yeah, to what is the challenge, and then what is, and we always want to use these open-ended questions that
Mhm.
would give us that noble response, right? Instead of like, why am I so bad at this? We say, what can I do? What do I need to learn
Yeah.
to grow in this area, or to overcome this fear, or to, yeah, whatever, work through this process.
Okay, so we can journal and ask like, okay, well, if it's the crown, month, then what do I need to do to release the
Mhm.
titles, the labels, the things, and then month 2, the perceptions, the whatever, and then open my expression and just go through the chakras like that.
Yeah, so I lead a circle each month that is for women to be able to do that together.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, that's one other way. Really, I think getting together with your own sisterhood or
Mm,
finding a group that is willing to go through this process together, it's a beautiful amount of support.
mm,
And the idea is that this overarching theme of Leo really is about courageously looking at these things within ourselves that are the
mhm,
challenge. And it's reclaiming our femininity, like we were talking about vulnerability being one of the superpowers of the feminine,
mhm,
and being really honest with ourselves in that vulnerable way.
mhm.
And it's an internal journey. You don't have to do it with anyone else. You can just go within and ask yourself those questions and create a more conscious relationship with your inner feminine. And I've been integrating and working with my inner masculine as well, because we all need the masculine to be that safe, supportive container for our feminine to be in her fullness.
Yeah, that's interesting. That you mentioned that, because to me it's always the hieros gamos, the sacred union of male and female, masculine, feminine energy within all of us to varying degrees. And I've been a part of women's groups before that where they're like, well, no men, no men, and I get that because it's the safety aspect, and in my heart and in my soul, it's like, but what if we had a group of women and a couple of very conscious, anchoring, grounding men? What if they were able to hear our stories and hold our pain? Like, what if we were able to share with them? Like, how tremendously healing would that be? But I know there's many women that are like, they let that lack of trust, that lack of feeling of safety affect them into the degree that that no, no, because then that's just more, misogyny. 'Cause they're going to
Right.
want to control everything, and so I don't know if you've ever had any experiences like that, but it just brought that to mind.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And out here in Portland, Oregon, where I live, I have created a meditation circle weekly for men and for women called
Mm,
the Circle of Love, because I
mm,
want them to be able to experience the love that I have to share and all be connected to our own self love, and then
mm,
spread that love out and share that with the world. And I am surprised at how many men are showing up and being really beautifully honoring in the container. We share our feelings, they show up and they share theirs, and they're able to witness the women. My moon circles also, I don't limit gender because I really do want to be able to be inclusive.
yeah.
And there is a sacred container for the feminine to feel safe with each other. And like we said, healing these sister wounds. They're not
Mhm.
really, we don't need the men to do that work, but I think we need the men to be doing their work. And I love the idea of overlapping our circles and integrating that. I think next year in Ecuador, I'm going to be part of a women's circle
Mm,
retreat, and then there'll be a men's retreat as well. And we're going to have the weekend overlapping so that we can do some work together. So
nice.
it's
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in a woman's circle that the same one, right? We don't want men, which is fine. But then, you start talking about trans people. Then like, oh well, this trans man's had an entire lifetime up to a point of womanhood, right?
Mm,
And now manhood. And but he lived a female life for a while, at least externally.
yeah.
Why isn't he included?
Yeah.
Or the trans woman that channels divine feminine more than a lot of women that I know, why isn't she included? It's like it blows my mind. To me, it's about the energy, the archetype, not so much the physicality. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I've been working with Sistership Circle, and we have that conversation a lot because there are some people that we want it to be an inclusive circle, and there are some groups that want to have their gender be really defined. And I think it's not wrong to have both, right?
Mm.
It's not necessarily the most safe container for everyone to feel like it has to be a certain way, but to know that there are so many opportunities and options out there
Yeah.
for that to exist. And if there was a trans woman that came to me and said, I really want to be included, I would be happy to include her because I would be on a one-on-one basis, knowing and trusting that
Yeah.
that would, yeah.
I could see that it would require a certain level, like it depends on someone's history and their story, and it would require for some people a certain level of healing to be able to get to that, to include, these different people, but
But
male,
let's hope.
whatever.
Yeah, let's hope that
Yeah,
there
yeah.
is more of that.
Yeah, I think it would just be so powerful to be seen, no matter what, and just held in that, no matter what the gender expression is or the energy behind it, because we just all need each other so much.
We do.
So, great. So we've got, the journaling recommendation and, about 19 months to go down into the descent, and then you're down there for a little while, and then about the same amount of time coming back up. So it sounds like it's almost like 3 years long.
It's a 19-month cycle, the whole thing.
Oh, the whole thing. Okay.
And there's
Okay. Thanks for
actually,
that. Yeah.
so, and I've got this, actually, I have it right here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. This is the, yeah, you can see it pretty well.
Okay. Yeah. Mhm.
This is the Venus cycle, the way that she is in the sky from Earth
Oh, wow.
over an 8-year cycle. Each of the
That's lovely.
petals are the star point, and we just had our
Mm.
star point in Leo. And so then we'll have a star point in, well, we just had one in Capricorn, the cycle before this one. So Leo, Capricorn, Libra, will have Aries and Scorpio as the different 19-month cycles. Over 8 years, it will make this entire design in the
Wow.
sky. And you can look those up on YouTube. They're really fun to just watch it dance around and how it is created. On one of the earth altars that we have in one of my women's circles, we actually created this with yarn and
Oh,
have a
cool.
whole
Yeah.
Venus symbol there for our women's circle space.
So, is there anything else that we, could be aware of or mindful of about the descent or the building anew? Like, is there anything else we should consider?
Well, the reclaiming part on coming back out from the underworld, I
Mhm.
think is the most powerful
Okay.
because we get to claim and like, so during the descent, we're removing these things. They're admonitions or inner demons, or, you could call them so many different things, blocks
Yeah.
that are limiting us from our full truest potential of being who we are. And then when we're fully in the underworld, it's the shadow work time to truly like get in deep and clear out what it is that's really holding us back. And then when we get to come back out, it's like the self-love and the reclaiming is just like a new moon, setting an intention for what it is that you're working on developing in that area. So how are you growing into your root chakra? Like what is
Mm.
makes you feel safe? Is it
Mhm.
being able to have your healthy boundaries? Is it having a financial plan? What is it that makes you feel safe? And then devoting some time and energy to that so that you're also cultivating the beauty within that area of your life.
Yeah, it's great. And so I am assuming most of the people watching know about the chakras, but root is money, community, family of origin. Yeah, anything grounding. Uh, Sacral is relationships, creativity, sexuality, And then the solar plexus is your relationship with self, and all of that. It's a whole
Most
lot.
empowered. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the heart, compassion, empathy, understanding, and then and a little more understanding up here, clarity. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So, Alicia, tell us, please, how people can find you, because you've got some great stuff to offer. So, if you don't mind sharing.
I would be happy to. I love doing the one-on-one client work. I am a guide for people to be able to do this self-discovery on your pace. I have a YouTube channel where I put a lot of my meditations up. So
Oh,
my
great.
Instagram, my YouTube, it's all Alicia Love Circles. And my website, which has everything that I offer, including my intuitive astrology, and the circle options. If anyone feels called and they want to join my online moon circle community or the Inanna Venus circles, it's mindfulspiritcoaching.com. And I have a lot of free things out there for people, meditation challenge and just ways to connect and learn. My
Awesome.
newsletter is pretty simple, just a couple times a month. I always include some astrology and just how I'm working with the energy of each season. So I would love to connect with anyone that feels like they are interested. I offer a free discovery call for anybody that wants to just connect and find out how we can work together more.
Great. Well, gosh, this has been really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing, your love of the feminine archetype, and, the embodiment of that, and the heroine's journey. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope this summit is just super fabulous for everyone because it's always important to get together and shine this sort of empowerment on each other.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.